Hello and welcome to today's Here's to Your Health podcast. I'm Don Linsman, Executive Director of Marketing and Development at Crawford County Memorial Hospital. My guest on the podcast today is Terry Welker. Terry is the Executive Director of Human Resources here at CCMH. And the topic of our podcast today is talking about the holidays and the kind of stresses that can induce in people and the struggles that folks have in terms of being able to deal sometimes with the emotions that they feel during this time of year. And Terry, thank you for joining me today.
You bet, Don.
We just want to have a short conversation, but we do want to bring this up because I think it's a very important topic and one that I think, Terry, we see all too often around the holidays, people who experience the sorts of emotions that are not very conducive to mental health.
Well, Don, my primary focus is on our employees. As the Human Resource Director, we put a lot of energy into making sure we understand what affects their lives and how we can help them bring their best day every day so that they can serve our community and our patients. But we know that there's plenty of research out there. We don't have to go very far to know and to find good information that suggests that the holidays elevates moods. It can make you in a better mood, or it can go just the opposite direction and pull you back from having your best mood or your best day. And the recent statistics show that 2 out of every 5 adults find stress in the holidays of what they can afford, not only worrying about family and gifts and giving, but 40% worry about what they can afford to give during the holiday season, or if they don't have the means to afford gifts, how they can celebrate the holidays appropriately with their family.
And I think what's difficult about that, Terry, is the amount of societal pressure that an awful lot of people feel. I mean, let's face it, we're a very consumerist society. We're often told, these are the great deals, the great buys. Here's what you need in order to be happy. If you only had this, your life would be better. And so we end up with, in a lot of instances, where we have people who feel like because they can't buy those things, their budget doesn't allow them to buy those things, they'll either go well into debt or they're going to overspend their budget just to be able to feel like they're meeting whatever the norm is in this particular situation.
Well, it would be easy for us to sit back and pontificate and say, just give something from the heart, give yourself, give your time, volunteer. But our society tends to be very materialistic and is pushing advertising constantly at them to encourage them to buy, when in fact the best gifts, as we know as working adults, are the gift of time.
My guest on the podcast today is Terry Welker. Terry is the Executive Director of Human Resources here at CCMH. We're talking today about the stresses that come about because of the holiday season and some ways for us to be able to perhaps cope with that. Terry, I know that you work here primarily with our employees, and we have a couple of resources that we recommend for our staff over the holidays. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit, because I'm guessing that there are other people who work in other organizations who will be listening to this today, who then may go back in their own organization and say, do we have these kinds of resources available to us? So what are some things that you would recommend for our own staff here at CCMH if they're feeling some of those stresses here over the holidays?
Well, we subscribe to a service as a benefit called the Employee Assistance Program. And the acronym is EAP. And for the great many of our listeners, EAP is a very common benefit throughout the industry of private and public sector work. EAP is normally attached to the full benefit program. So if the employer has, I would guess, I don't have any research to support this, but I would guess just history shows that 50 or more employees normally has some type of benefit program. Of course, that's the threshold mandated by law. And with those programs, EAP tends to be an attachment. EAP is a separate third-party vendor that is a counseling service that offers anonymous counseling. So we encourage our employees, we pass out flyers frequently throughout the year with the 800 number that's a total anonymous number that is by contract a confidential service. So we're allowed to know how many times our employees access it, but not who it is that's accessing it. So we let our employees know that that call will be between you and that third-party professional counselor with those professional tools that help them negotiate whatever issue, whether it's divorce or the holiday stress or finances or grief counseling for those missing family members that we find ourselves at that crossroads sometimes that we've lost in the last 10 or 12 months a family member, and all of a sudden we really don't realize it. We know it day to day, we're carrying that with us, but until that empty seat at the table shows up on Thanksgiving Day, it kind of hits us like a ton of bricks that first year or two.
And I want to make sure that I am very specific here. We're not counselors. We're not mental health professionals by any stretch of the imagination. We simply want to offer some suggestions around the holidays of things that people can do to help relieve their stress, to help them sort through the feelings that they might have. And as Terry mentioned, we certainly recommend any sort of professional service, highly confidential, but well-trained people who can help you to sort through those issues on your own. Our goal here today is simply to perhaps make a few suggestions that might make the holidays a little bit easier and help you to understand and discover maybe some of the stressors that you're facing in your life right now because of the holidays. And again, my guest on our podcast today is Terry Welker. Terry is the Executive Director of Human Resources here at CCMH. I'm Don Lintzman. I'm Executive Director of Marketing and Development here at the hospital. I think one thing that you just brought up, Terry, is an important consideration. You know, there are many kinds of loss. Sometimes it is a loss of a job. Perhaps it is the loss of a marriage through divorce, or maybe it's the loss of a spouse in death, or the loss of a family member, a sibling perhaps, or a grandmother or a grandfather. It makes the holidays different, and if it's the first time you've ever gone through that, it can be a really stressful time. And I'll use my own life as an example. One of my wife's sisters passed away earlier this year. It'll be the first major holiday that everybody is together, and she will not be there. And I already see the stress manifesting itself in the way that my wife is thinking about and talking about how we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving this year. So I know that not just for us, but for a lot of other people, you face those same sorts of situations. It's important to have someone that you can talk to.
Well, and Don, I have a personal situation as well. I lost my mother in early 2022, and last Thanksgiving was really the first major holiday. She was always an integral part of our family, always an integral part of Thanksgiving preparation and the meal, and she had some favorite dishes and desserts that she made, and we knew coming up to the holidays last year that it was going to be different. And we were able to reach out and talk to a counselor to get some suggestions. And in doing so, they said, start a new routine. So instead of Christmas ham and Thanksgiving turkey, we swapped them, and we made Thanksgiving ham and Christmas turkey. And we actually then moved the event, the gathering, to a different location, a brother-in-law's house across the city. And that was something new. It was refreshing. It was something we could look forward to. And even though the loss was still felt, we were starting something new and trying to make something good out of something that we could have dwelled on, the loss, and we recognized the loss that day, but it didn't hurt as bad. And that I think was key. And the counselor really helped us through and give us some tools that we could do something constructive with that loss. and really recognize it and really make it the best of us. And when we have employees here that suffer loss and have those stressors that we know are there intrinsically in so many people that we interact with each and every day, it's not ours as laypersons to help them fix whatever is broken or fix whatever might be broken. It's ours to guide them in the right direction, to get to a professional that has been thoroughly trained and has a large toolbox to be able to bring out the right tool at the right time to get the best outcome.
And I think you make an excellent point there, Terry. Sometimes people don't even know what's bothering them about the holidays. They don't understand why they're being stressed. And it is a little bit like when you have a pebble in your shoe. It is just one of those things that bothers you, and until you can uncover it for yourself and deal with it, it's just a difficult thing to endure. It's the reason why we encourage people to seek out professionals, because they're the people who can help uncover the stressors that we're feeling, the things that make us feel different, or that there's something wrong about how the holidays might be progressing. And I think it's important that we continue to recommend people to see a professional when it comes to any sort of holiday stress that you might be experiencing. You know, as we close today, Terry, maybe one other question that comes to mind for me is if there's somebody out there listening today and they're wondering what they can do just on their own, if they don't have access to anybody who's out there who is what they would consider to be a trained professional, they don't have a phone number to call, they don't have an EAP program, they don't know who their trained professional might happen to be, what suggestion would you make for them this holiday season?
Well, if the first suggestion is if they're employed, I would say ask your employer if you have such a program. A counseling service as an additional benefit to your benefit package. If you're not employed, then there are some services that most cities offer through the 211 or 311 system, and it's best if you pick up the phone and find out what your services are offered by your local community. There are some drop-in services offered from time to time during the holidays at different community events. When we talk about community get-togethers or community gatherings, I would recommend that for those that are employed, they talk to the employer about whether that service is provided or not. And if you're not employed or your employer doesn't offer the service, you check out that 211 or that 311 system to see if your community offers that assistance.
And I think what you just mentioned is important. Don't isolate yourself.
Right.
Be a part of something, meet people, socialize, be the kind of person who wants to be around others around the holiday season. As tough as that might seem to be, for whatever reason, human beings were never meant to be alone. We were meant to be around other people. So if beyond anything else, at least make yourself available, as you suggested, for some of these community events where you can feel like you're a part of something greater than yourself. And you never know the people you might meet, the relationships that you might develop that will help you to better deal with the stress you're feeling now during the holiday season.
And just remember that loneliness is not something that has to perpetuate. You can take positive steps and volunteer where other people might be lonely, at your local community senior centers or your local community pantries, your food pantries. This is a time of year where they all need extra help. And so volunteer, ingrain yourself into somebody else's life, somebody else's needs. And in doing so, maybe your loneliness won't feel so isolated.
Terry, I wish you the best of the holiday season, especially a happy Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you, Don, and I wish all of our listeners the same as well.
My guest on the podcast today has been Terry Welker. Terry is the Human Resources Executive Director here at CCMH. I'm Don Lintzman, Executive Director of Marketing and Development at Crawford County Memorial Hospital. We've been talking about helping to reduce holiday stress, and again, we encourage everyone to either seek out through their employer their EAP program, their Employee Assistance Program, or that you contact a professional to help you with the stress that you might be feeling this holiday season. I'm Don Lintzman. This is Crawford County Memorial Hospital's Here's to Your Health podcast. We care for life.